What's up, guys? So I got another video for you guys today. I got a video coming to you from the slums. I'm still in Bali. It's actually not so bad today. There's some fucking hard workers behind me plowing a field by hand. I can see it, so it reminds me that fucking life's not that bad. It's got it pretty easy in comparison to sit here and make content and fuck around. Compared to that, it's simple. But yeah, it's working his fucking ass off. I'll show you guys later. But yeah, so what I'm up to today, I've got something a little bit different. People ask me often what movies I watch, what books do I read, what sort of ideas have sculpted me into who I am. Is there anyone that I follow online? Guys ask me, do I follow Tate stuff, or whose stuff do I watch? Do I watch these emergency meetings from Tate, whatever? I don't watch those. That's not to say that they're not good. I just don't watch a lot of content online, specifically from people who have very strong personalities, because I think that they're sort of they're pushing their idea into you. And while it can be a good spot to start from, it's similar to someone like Kanye or an artist or something like that. I don't like anyone adding I don't mind if they add their opinion to my takes and things like that, but I don't like them affecting my artistic process. So I don't like to take in too much information from someone else. Like, I don't sit there and read all of the comments and things like that. I read very few, because I don't want someone else's input to alter my ideas and things like that. Like, my creative process is my own, to stay who I am. I don't want to be trying to please everyone, because then it kind of dilutes your own message, or actually dilutes who you are. So building off of that, and why one of the persons in specific that I actually do gel with, or did gel with when he was still alive, Kevin Samuels, is actually one of the ones that I watched quite a bit of his stuff, when he used to pump out the content. I didn't watch the debates with women and things like that, but I watched some of his other stuff, his takes on style, his takes on individuality, his take as someone from the corporate sector. What I really liked about him was that he was a black guy. He's a black guy, but he also was in corporate, and he also was teaching a very different message than the usual shit that they push out to black people. A lot of this thug culture and a lot of this rapper crap and like shit, like, all of these rappers and have baby mamas and, be a gangster and run around and do a bunch of crime and sit in jail for your whole life. That's the message that gets pushed by the Hollywood sort of sector, it seems. Very few are the guys pushing to that specific race of people that they should be more than athletes, rappers, and other shit, junkies and pillheads and stuff like that. And that's not to say that they shouldn't be that, but you got to be realistic. Not everyone's going to be able to be an athlete, and not everyone's going to be able to be a rapper and things like that. So it's good to have a backup. I know everyone would love that sort of lifestyle and things like that, but it's not that good for the community. It's not, you're going for something that's like the 0.01% chance that you're actually going to make it into and become very successful in, and not get injured and things like that. So you have to think of all of the other parts of it. But yeah, his message was quite different to those sort of people. And yeah, it's all gelled with me quite well, because, I was in prison. I'd been around that sort of a life, I've been around a gangster lifestyle, been selling drugs for a long time at that point. And yeah, I saw his stuff online. I wasn't long out of prison, and we used to talk. I originally reached out to him and paid him to talk to him. I paid him to get consultations, because where I was running a fund. So I was running a cryptocurrency fund, Talk Ventures. I was a partner. And then I had been outed online as a criminal. People had made hit pieces on me and said, this guy is a criminal. How can he be running a fund? How can he be reinvesting in projects? How can he be managing money? We're managing about 80 million at the time of investor money, in different ICOs and, initial coin offerings and things like that. And we're investing in seed startups and things like that. So you can't be attached. Like, tech companies raising money can't really be attached to someone who's allegedly was a criminal. It's not a very good look for them. So I obviously didn't really know what to do. I'm being attacked online. I was still on parole at the time. I was worried that it would breach my parole if parole searched me up, or was something flagged or something like that, and they saw that I was managing all of this money, although it was legal. It still made me a bit nervous, so I didn't really know exactly what to do. So I just waited. I didn't have much of a social media presence then. I was banned from social media from a parole perspective. I wasn't allowed to have social media as part of my parole conditions. So I didn't have an Instagram, I didn't have a Facebook, I didn't have any of that till my parole ended, which put me quite largely behind in that sort of sector. I missed a lot of that early adoption for that. I'd already by the time I went into it, it was already very competitive. Like there was already a lot of people that had big accounts and things like that. But there's no complaining. You know, things happen for a reason. You ebb and flow in life. You do one thing, you got to expect another. Can't have it all positive. You know, life itself is like a teeter-totter, up and down. You know, you get one good outcome, and it can be often an equal opposite reaction of bad is attached to it. That's the way it is. Very rarely is something entirely good for you, and very rarely is something entirely bad for you. You know, things are, everything cloud has a silver lining, as they say. But yeah, so my interactions and things like that with Kevin Samuels are very interesting. You know, he gave his take on many things. He's the one that told me, and when I said, oh, what can I do about this? You know, I'm going to step down, or I step down from the fund. But he's the one that said, you know, eventually you're going to have to own who you are and face that, you know, face the criticism. See, people ask me all of the time, Stephen, why do you go by your full name? You know, Stephen Ronald Bell. Because Ronald is my dad's name, and every time someone talks about me, they mention him now. And I have my history that I have, and I don't hide from it. See, I don't hide from my history. People say, why don't you change your name? Why don't you change this? Why don't you delete articles off the internet? You know, because I can do that. I mean, I have unlimited money. I can pay to get them removed, or take them to court, or things like that to get them removed. But I never want anything that I haven't earned. And that's good for good criticism and good press and bad press. I would rather be loved for who I am and hated for who I am than to people not to know who they're talking to or who they're dealing with and things like that. You know, I try to live in complete authenticity. That's one of my big things in life, like one of my biggest, because everything I have, I earn. You know, I don't have to LARP. I don't like to pretend. That's why it annoys me when people LARP around me or exaggerate or things like that, because they're trying to get something that they haven't earned. You know, and it also annoys me if I ever give someone respect under false pretenses, because again, they've fooled me and gotten something that they haven't earned. You know, I've had to earn everything that I have the hard way. You know, I've earned the good and the bad. You know, I've had my history with crime, and as such, I've been to prison for that. So I'm not saying that I've paid my dues entirely, that people have to love me, because it doesn't really matter to me if they love me or not. I don't care. But I do care about being who I am. And that also is accepting my shadow self and my past and things like that, and accepting that I do have a dark side to me. I know that. But I don't hide from it. I integrate it into my full self. And as such, I think I live a very congruent life. I don't have to act when I'm around people, things like that. I find that makes life a lot easier. I don't live my life terrified that someone's going to find something bad about me at all. I live a life where I can take my phone and give it to a friend, give it to someone, and they can read it, and there's really nothing to hide. Like I'm pretty open. If you ask me, there's not really a lot of shit that I've hidden. You know, I don't really have to hide anything. I wouldn't give you access to my bank accounts and things like that, but history and my past and things that I'm up to today, I don't really need to hide anything from that. I don't like to live like that, you know, live like very afraid that people are going to find stuff out, things like that. I'm very open about my net worth. I'm very open about what I do. I can be open about drug use. I can be open about many things. You know, if I have a girl, I can be open if I cheat on her. I can be open if I'm fucking other girls. I'm not really someone who runs around and LARPs and lies and tricks people and has to be so careful that people are going to find out. I've got to lie to this person, this person, this person. I don't have time for that as a rule. You know, I'd like to know that people know what they're in for when they deal with me. You know, that's not to say that I'm perfect, because I'm quite far from it. You know, but people can know who they're talking to. And that's the vibe that I got from Kevin Samuels. You know, a lot of that was not, I wouldn't say taught, because it was always in me, in myself. But he told me that that's fine, like that's okay to live that way. Because I was just out of prison. So it was very hard for me to express myself in a lot of ways, because I didn't have social media, I didn't have a lot of the stuff, and I was out of prison on parole. So I was very careful about what I was doing. You know, when I was making money and things like that, I have to keep it very on the down low. That sort of lifestyle that I lived before wasn't a lifestyle where you can run around and flex on social media and stuff like that, because that's how you get caught. So I was very private about a lot of stuff too, in that regard. So after that, it was nice to be able to talk about myself and talk about my history and talk about my past and things like that. Because if we ever talk and things like that, I very rarely talk about myself or stories or things like that. So this channel is in itself therapeutic. You know, if you talk to me and things like that, I very rarely will go into history of stories or anything like that. You know, I don't think I've talked to anyone really about prison, and not really on really any podcast to any sort of depth or any sort of level. I keep a lot of the dark stories and things like that away. One day I'll go into them, one day, but not today. And yeah, my take, a lot of that was from Kevin Samuels, to be able to live authentic to yourself, live with your own values, and also air out your own dirty laundry, and also understand that's what makes your story. Like, that's what makes you unique. A lot of you try to be cookie cutter good boy, or you're afraid to let your warts hang out. So then you don't realize that a lot of the thing, like I've said, your friction and your inadequacies and even your insecurities and things like that, that's what people gel on. Like, that's what people relate to you on, because they feel like they've realized some sort of Achilles heel to you. Like, they realize that you too are flawed and you're not afraid to show it. And it makes other people comfortable because they are also flawed. A lot of people try to pretend to be perfect, or pretend to, be some cookie cutter, another character that someone else on the internet who has a bombastic personality. They try to be like that instead of the best version of themselves and also themselves. So yes, that's the one thing that I got from Kevin Samuels, was authenticity and not being afraid at the same time, being true to yourself, but also not being afraid to rebrand yourself, like completely tear down yourself if it's not working and restart. Like, he's someone who, yes, he was I believe a chemical engineer or something like that, so he's very intelligent. I couldn't do that sort of a degree. I've been in school for 9 years and then I was out. So I don't have any of that sort of knowledge, but I have a very good knowledge of the streets on people. That's my skill, and power dynamics and structures and things like that. I'm very good at identifying that sort of stuff and being useful, and also finding useful people around me. But yeah, his value was the authenticity, but also not being afraid to tear yourself down and restart. See, by his definition, or my definition, I don't consider him a success until he was like 50, until he was at YouTube and he had all his channels and he had his things like that. Then he become, in my view, because obviously I'm very successful, a success in my eyes. When I was talking to him, I was still richer than him, but I understand that he still had a lot to teach me. He was a lot older than me, but also a lot wiser in regard of living through corporations and things like that. Like, he had a lot of what I was missing. See, I had it from a street perspective. I understand people from the streets. I understand people who are being around crime, prison, dangerous environments. I understand I've had a lot of death around me, even still. Like, there's a lot of dead bodies around me. So I understand reality as the harshest, that side, but he understands it from a corporate perspective, very similar to Sartorio, who understands it also from a corporate perspective in that regard. I think he understands the other side too, but corporate especially. Like, he's very good with people and very good at negotiating and doing business and things like that. You can't be like a tyrant. Like, that's on the street, you can be a tyrant. That's the easiest way to understand it. But in corporations and things like that, you have to build partnerships, and you have to be diplomatic. You have to be able to get along with other people. Kevin Samuels was a master of that. He was a great networker. He was a great guy who gave a lot of value while also never shying that he wanted to get what he wanted to get from people. He wasn't shy to take, but he also gave a lot. A lot of people, again, hide that they're there to take. Like, they hide that they're on YouTube and things to make money. They act like, oh, I'm just here to help you. I don't need anything. I don't want anything. I just want to help. But they also they hide that they want stuff. That makes me skeptical of them. See, the one that hides shit that he wants from you, that's what always costs you the most. The friendship or the girl or something like that who comes in and says she doesn't want anything when you're already rich or you have a lot. That's what hurts the most, because then they're not direct about what they want, and it's going to cost you the most. The others has come in and they pretty direct that they want shit or they need shit or that they expect this or that, and that's fine. Like, that's the way to be. But the girl who comes in and says she's not impressed by your Lambo, she's not impressed by this, she's not impressed by that, she's not impressed by this, but then she only dates millionaires, that's all bullshit, and that's going to cost you a lot if you fall for that sort of a trap. That's the way it is. You got to be very aware of the bait you throw out. Like, a lot of you aren't, and a lot of people aren't in general. They're not aware of the bait they're using to get what they're getting, and then they don't realize what they're catching, like the actual fucking fish that they get. Like, you're throwing out a bait that's money, and then they catch something that's only attached to money. They throw out a bait that maybe they're body obsessed, one of these gym freaks, and then they only get people that like them if they're ripped. It's all about the bait that you use. The best bait is like a foundational character, like your full character out there. A lot of you, again, want trad relationships, but nothing about your life is traditional. Like, you don't signal it at all. You want a trad fucking relationship and things, and then you would try, maybe you can trick a girl that wants a marriage, or maybe you can trick a girl that wants a family, and then you just pump and dump her and treat her like everyone else. And then you're just creating the very shit that you don't want in this world. Crappy women. But going back to, Kevin Samuels, he was a master of saying what he wanted, being direct, but also helping people along the way. He could be cruel, but also and also one thing, not to suffer fools lightly. See, I won't get into a debate or some discussion or shit like that if it's obvious that the person is malicious with their words. Like it's obvious the person's trying to do some hit piece or something like that. Like I won't just give them ammunition to use against me. I just wrap it up there. Like once you realize you're dealing with a bad actor, there's no point getting into a further debate. It's like the saying goes, when you're face to face with like a warrior, draw your sword. Like there's no fucking word, there's no point having a big debate. Like the best thing is to draw your sword and do what you have to do. Because if you know someone's getting in your face, something like that, and closing the distance and starting to scream at you, it's best to just headbutt them or move out of the way. Like get away, or just, you don't just sit there and fucking argue with them because now you're in the firing line, like they're too close to you now. That's the way it goes with that sort of thing. But yeah, so the authenticity was a big thing with Kevin Samuels. The part of learning from someone who was a corporate person was another big one with Kevin Samuels. And he was still masculine. I wouldn't say Kevin Samuels looked like a threatening guy. I mean, he's quite tall, skinny, but he had survived cancer from what I've heard. So he's still manly. He was someone who's into style and into fashion and things like that. Similar to Satoru again, who I've still learned from and things like that. Into fashion, but still masculine. I used to watch a lot of that stuff, and if I would see guys dressed like that, I would think that maybe it's like a little bit off, like could be fruity. But then I realized now, a lot of that stuff is necessary. Like it's necessary for a certain character. And now I learn also that you have to dress the way that you want people to perceive you. Like I never used to think that any of that shit mattered. Like nice watches, cars, stuff like that. I'm from the fucking gutter, like that stuff I'd never seen. I didn't think any of that shit mattered. But you have to dress in the robe or role as you want people to perceive you. Like you dress in the shoes of who you want to be. And it's not a bad thing to reinvent yourself many times. He'd failed by my definition multiple times. Similar story to the Colonel Sanders. Like he was an old person by the time he found success. The irony of Kevin Samuels is that he found success later in life and didn't enjoy it for a long period of time, in my view, because I think that he was taken from us. In my view, that's my thing. I have no evidence to support it, but I know from my conversations and things like that, he was very health obsessed. He was very focused on himself. So I don't believe the story that we were fed at the end. And that's my take on all of that shit. I'm not gonna really get into it too much, into a big discussion about it, but I don't believe that the story and things like that that's said. But authenticity is a big one. It's not, it goes over the character archetypes of people and what the best versions of who they are could be. And it's just such a big thing, to be authentic to yourself. I think it's a lost thing now, like it's a lost cause. And that's my take for today, lads. I'll cover some more. People ask me who I like and who I follow or who I even look into or things like that. And I'll break down the best qualities, in my view, of each sort of character that's big. I can do another one. So Kevin Samuels was one. Guys like Rogan. Reason why I'll break it down so that people understand what makes people gel to people and things like that. Reason why people like Rogan is because he's the everyman. I'll do Joe Rogan now. Reason why people like him is because he's a representative of the everyman. Like he's not a massive intellectual, by my view. I don't think he's like studied a lot, other than he now learns from people on the Rogan channel. And he's kind of like the definition of the guy who's gone from the gym. He's a fighter. I'm not saying he's an amazing fighter. I think that he's good, but he's more of a commentator now. But he's the guy who's that sort of guy who's come from the gym, but he also learns from intellectuals because he puts his ego down and learns from them. And people can gel with it. People like the people like the Rogans because they're the everyman. People like to watch the freak fighting and the like Jake Pauls and things like that because they're kind of still representative of the everyman. He's quite good now. He's a good fighter and things like that, but he's not too good where people are like, I can't imagine this guy is this too good. Like in porn, people like to watch amateur stuff because it's more indicative of what shit they can do. It's more relatable. Like that's more relatable for people. OF, people don't want to go for the 10 out of 10 on there, like OnlyFans. People go for the one they think is attainable, that girl next door concept. That's the ones that make the most money like a 6 or a 7 out of 10, because the guy can imagine that he could get a girl like that, so he simps for it. Like, that's the best story. The girls who are online now on X and things like that, and they pretend to be trad women, like the trad rebirth, but it's the old smashed out chick. That's the best pivot that she had on the board, because she's trying to signal for the guy that now she wants, now that she's like being smashed all around the city. And that's the pivot. You know, you got to be very aware of your market. And like I say, you got to throw out the right bait to get the right product that you want. Like they're now aware of what they want. You know, they want the guy who's going to take them and forget about their past and look after them and things like that now that they're older and have many miles. And that's their strategy. Like, it's obvious. I understand that. A lot of people don't, and then they fall into it. And that's fine if you take things like that, but don't be surprised later in life. You know, some people don't know what they're in for. They don't know what they've got beside them. And it's fine, you know. Deception, self-deception is always the most damning. You know, you always have to be aware and take an inventory of where you are, like where you stand, what you have next to you and things like that. And it's fine. If you're happy with it, then it's fine. It doesn't matter. But yeah, Rogan is the representative of the everyman. You know, he's not in crazy shape. I mean, he looks after himself. He goes to the gym and things like that, but he's not like some massive bodybuilder. He looks like a somewhat of a normal guy who still goes to the gym and things like that. And when he talks in a way that the layman, like the average person like me, can even understand, like about complicated topics. And he gets, you know, geniuses like Musk, I still consider him a genius. And he gets guys like Zuckerberg and things like that on that are very high intellectuals, but he also can make them communicate in a way that the normal people can understand. You know, he can get guys on like that Lex Friedman, the autist dude, and they can talk pretty normal, you know, in ways that people can understand about complicated topics like quantum physics or things like that. And there's a few like things in there that a person like me even can grab onto and be like, I can understand this. Because obviously if I pick up a fucking quantum physics textbook and start reading, I've got no clue like what I'm looking at. I understand the basics, that's it. I only understand that stuff on a feeling perspective, that I do believe that it is real. But I don't understand it on the depth that someone that studied it for fucking 20 years, or that Stephen Hawking guy, can understand if he could keep off Epstein Island. But yeah, so that's my take for, you know, guys like that Rogan. How you learn what your best archetype is and things like that, it's similar to what bait you throw out, what you want to catch. See, Rogan's perfect for the everyman. I think what they're doing with Rogan is they're bringing on guys to kind of use him as someone who's like baptizing them to bring them around for the like normal person to understand. You know, he brings them on there, he softly grills them, they feel like they leave cleansed, and now the average person allegedly now likes them, even though they've done a lot of wrongs. I don't believe that's really what's happening, but I do think that's possibly what they're doing. I mean, he's got a massive Spotify deal, but that's not to say that he's a net negative in the world either, because he's an entertainer now. You know, he's a commentator and things like that. He's done a lot of good in the world. And it's not to say that if someone fucking Spotify offered me $100 million contract to sit there and interview people, I certainly would do it. So I'm not one to throw stones from a glass house. I mean, everyone would take such a contract. But yeah, that's my take. You got to know what bait you throw out to catch what you're going to catch. My take on the Kevin Samuels, the authenticity is a massive one. Don't be afraid to pivot if what you're doing isn't working, or don't be afraid to rebrand yourself or change yourself, or don't be afraid, to knock yourself completely down and rebrand or repivot or just become someone else. So you can become anyone in this world. Like, a world is like the whole of this fucking world is a stage for the performers in life that understand that. You know, everyone else sits there and just takes everything so literal and so serious. You know, the biggest loss will be if you're still the same person that you were 10 or 20 years ago. Like, you fucked up, like you failed in some way, because a lot of things have changed, like the world has changed. You have to change alongside it. And that's not to say that you've foundationally changed with ethics and things like that. Your morals can stay the same, but you yourself have to change. Like, a lot of people haven't changed since high school and things like that. They keep the same circle of friends, same beliefs, same things like that. And even though that belief doesn't serve them anymore, it's being debunked or things like that. Like, your belief system, again, should only serve you. If you've got toxic belief system, then it's not very good. It becomes like a prison, and it's very restricting. So that's my take on two people that I do admire. I'm not saying that I admire Rogan, that he's amazing or things like that. He's not, in my view, the same level of Kevin Samuels, but he is a success and he is true to himself. And I don't think I don't believe he's a bad dude or anything like that. You know, and I can't deny that he's been very successful at what he does. He's a very successful martial artist from what I've seen. He's good, he's skilled, he's dedicated himself to fitness. I think that he's done a lot of good for helping people get fit or get healthy or lose the fat and things like that. So he's been a net positive to the world, and certainly a net positive to men. And I also don't think his message is toxic to women either. Like, I don't think he teaches guys to hate women. I don't think Kevin Samuels does either, although he does teach people to know their value and ignore women that are, in my view, less and only toxic to their future for men. But he doesn't hate women either. Like, as long as they come correct and come respectful, he understands their position in life. I don't really like anyone that blindly hates, or if I can feel their insecurities coming through, because again, hatred and things like that, it's often because you're insecure. Like, why are you ganging up on women? Like, why are you yelling at chicks? Like, what have they done to you? Like, obviously something's hurt you along the way, and now you judge all women as the same. And women and men, they have to cohabitate, like they have to live together. A lot of these red pill channels and just only bring divide. Like, it's the fucking same system. Like, they're only dividing women and men and creating more women that hate guys because they see these shot clips of chicks getting put down and treated like shit, and dudes talking about cheating and doing all of this other crap. Like, cheating, like, just recklessly, like relentlessly, and lying to chicks and leading them on and getting chicks pregnant and fucking them off, all of this sort of stuff. So he didn't really encourage that. And I do think that his view was a little bit too, like, in the perfect world sort of concept, where he's trying to change Christianity or trying to change beliefs, trying to change the church and things like that. And there's too much against him. Like, he's pushing against the fucking world. It's very difficult to do that. And that's the way it is. But yeah, there's two people that I do respect to a point, and do value what they say, and respect their credentials and their credibility and their success. And it's not hard for me to say that. See, people jump on now, if you give respect to another man, they're like, oh, he's a meat rider, what a dick rider, man. Like, why would he do that? Just pretend that you're the man. It's easy to respect and recognize other people when your glass is full, like when you're secure. I can see a dude, I might not even like him, and still see that there's qualities in him that are good. You have to have that sort of assessment, reflection, and things like that. Because it's hard for guys to give respect to other men, yes, because they feel like they have to keep it all for themselves, like they didn't get a lot of it growing up, and now they don't get a lot of it in life, so when they see others get it, it makes them feel small, instead of realizing that for men, it's good to see men that are doing well or successful, because it's a good ambassador for all men. Instead of running around saying all men ain't shit, and this guy's a loser, and this guy's a loser, and this guy's a loser, it's that then women just look in and they're like, all men fucking trash, like they're all shit. That's like the guy at the party who runs around and says all of the guys who the girls want are fucking losers, and tells a bunch of bad stories and things like that, and tries to make the person look bad. But all the chick does is just thinks like all the men there are fucking retards. So that's just the damning thing of dudes. It's not meat riding to give someone respect and credit for their successes and things like that. It's meat riding, I guess, to be insanely delusional and ignore also that they're flawed, ignore that they have faults as well. I can't go into their faults because I don't really know it. I don't know a lot about them in that regard. I've only seen their persona on TV and their success, so I can't say that they're specific flaws, but I'm sure that they have them. But you have to be able to see them as they are, and you have to be able to see me as I am. I never want to be someone who's seen as Superman, because it's a big burden. Like, it's a big fucking responsibility to pretend to be perfect. Like, everyone that you see on TV that acts perfect, they're not. And the more that they act like they're perfect, they have more shit in the closet, and the more fearful they are that you're going to find out. Like, it's the equal and opposite reaction is a real thing. People who try to appear too perfect have the biggest skeletons in the closet, because they're just afraid that you're going to one day peek in and everything's going to fall over. Like, they have a lot of shit there. They don't want anyone to look into it, so they're trying to appear incredibly perfect, wholesome, and innocent. And that's the way it is. But all right, lads, so that's my pledge of respect for a couple of the guys. One's dead, and may he rest in peace. But yeah, so that's my take for Kevin Samuels. I think he's the better of the two, because he didn't have a lot of the same advantages, I guess you would say. I'm not saying Rogan had a bunch of advantages, but he rode the wave with the UFC. Like, he had a lot of he was early on it, yes, and he was a hard worker and he helped build it, things like that, but he rode that whole success of the MMA train. So, whereas Kevin Samuels, I don't think he had as many options, and I think he was clipped before he would have been massive. I think if he was still around, he would be the biggest, like, not just YouTuber, but he would have transcended, because he was beginning to transcend into that sort of culture. But yeah, that's all speculation, and that's my take for, yeah. Best bit of advice is know what bait you're using for what you want to catch in life, not just with women, but with people and with jobs and with employment, with your future. You know, are you using bait that's going to get you a good outcome that you actually want, or a shit one that you don't want? You know, is your image that you're presenting to the world how you want people to treat you, how you want people to view you? Is it congruent to who you are? You know, I can wear all of this shit because I'm covered in tattoos. This is what I've done for 10 years, 10, 15, maybe even closer to 20. It's what I've done, led into all my life. It's my life decisions and things like that, but it may not be yours. You know, a lot of people with this, everyone wants to be seen as a gangster, and everyone wants to be a plastic gangster, and everyone wants people to see them as some badass or shit like that. It's very restricting. You know, some people have that's just their life, and they can't really go away from that because it's who they are. To change would be not congruent to who they are, and it would appear weird. But we're just the product of our decisions, and there are many other ways that are more productive and easier to get to be multi-millionaire and happy and things like that than the ones that I've taken. You know, in a lot of ways I've taken the hard road compared to how people have done it today. And yeah, there's much simpler ways, and ways with less friction, and ways with less drama, and ways with less people crying around you, and you know, not to see a lot of death and stuff like that. So that's, again, just what bait are you using to catch what you want. I knew I missed a part of something when I was fucking blanked, when I was thinking about the Kevin Samuels things, the lessons that he taught me. I think the best one actually is kind of what I've covered already, when use the right bait to catch what you want. But nobody owes you understanding. That's a really strong message, and it's a really strong point. See, a lot of people walk around and they look a certain way, and they think that people now should try and figure them out, like there's some complex puzzle or something like that. Whereas if you have hand tattoos, neck tattoos and things like that, people will look at you and think that you're a criminal. Like, people will look at you and think that they probably should stay away from you, like many people, specifically if you don't have a lot of value. Like, if they don't have to interact with you, they probably won't. People will be nervous around you, because they don't understand tattoos and things like that. And yeah, that's my thing for tattoos and things like that. But some people have like a mental illness, or they'll have something happen, or they think, you know, they have some sort of extreme hairstyle, or they have extreme ideas, or they're like a whale running around. Maybe they're gay in some way, or something like, you know, LBGT, however many other fucking letters there are on there these days. But maybe they're down that specific path, and they think now that people need to try and figure them out or understand them. You know, they need to come to them to try and understand why they have pink hair, or they need to come to them to try and understand why they're 300 pounds, or try to figure them out and give them, like, you know, like empathy and things like that. But people are too busy. Like, people aren't going to do that. Like, that's not how people are, nor should they have to. Like, nobody, again, as Kevin Samuels says, owes you understanding. They don't have to try and figure you out. You know, the society and things like that, they're just going to like cast you a certain way and then move past it. Like, you know, some of these people, these immigrants and things like that, they think if they look a certain way, or then they're not responsible to be like racially profiled and criminal profiled and things like that. Like, if you're walking around London and you're followed by fucking 12 African looking dudes, or you're followed by 12 white dudes, like, I know that I'm more nervous by around the African people, because not to say that they're all fucking bad, but I know that there's a chance that they can be more violent. And that's not to say that they're all violent or that they're all dangerous, but that's not the crowd that I really want to spend my time with if I have a fucking choice. You know, that's just the way it is. Like, racially profiling is a real thing. We did it in fucking prison. You know, if someone tells you, if you're a white dude and someone says, do you want to share a cell with a black dude or a white dude, I'm picking a white dude most often, because that's what I fucking look like. Like, I want to be with my own fucking look and people, you know, and maybe the others want to be with other people, and that's fine. But yeah, so again, you can be racially profiled, and that's the way it is. Like, sitting there crying about it and stuff like that, that's like solves nothing. A lot of people are a certain religion and things like that, and they get butthurt when people think that they're all bad. You know, that's just the way that people think. So again, you have to be mindful of that. Like, I'm the same. Like, people say, oh, Steven, you know, why are you saying these racist things, or what? I'm basically that fucking, like, I'm the black dude running around. Because look, I'm covered in fucking neck tats and tattoos and shit like that. Like, people are nervous around me. Like, girls, if they're alone with me, are more nervous than being alone with someone who looks like Zuckerberg. Like, that's pretty normal. So I have to be mindful of that and more careful of that to the other side. You know, I'm essentially the black dude. That's the way that people would view me or see me and things like that. And you can't get butthurt about it. Like, that is just the way that it is. It still can have other benefits and stuff like that later on. You know, if you want to look a certain way, but you have to lean excessively to the other side, and that's the way it is. You know, if I get in an elevator with old people or something like that, I'm always courteous. You know, or a woman's alone with me in the elevator or something, and she sees a dude covered in fucking tattoos, looks like this. I break the ice. So I don't make it like try to scare her, or also I don't get upset if she does get a bit scared. You know, that's the way that it is. Like, it's this, you got to put yourself in other people's shoes and accept that. You know, it's the way it is. So I don't understand why you would fight reality. Like, that's not a good thing to do that. And yes, as such, nobody owes you understanding, even if it's not fair. You know, fair, it's what side of the gun you're down. You know, fair is one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Like, fair depends on, are you on this side of the barrel or the other side? You know, because maybe they both have a good reason to be on both sides. And that's just the way it is. You know, fairness to me is mostly a bullshit term. You know, plenty of stuff happens in the world that isn't fair all of the time. And yeah, that's my take of that one, that nobody owes you understanding, nobody owes you to try and figure you out. You know, if you're a whale running around, nobody's going to sit there and be like, can you tell me your story? What's your reason for looking like a toad? What's your reason for being 400 pounds? You know, like, people generally don't care. Like, everyone's too busy with their own shit. You know, everyone's too busy with their own crap, and they just base shit on TV. Oh, black guy Muslim dudes around me, I have to be careful, because there's a lot of shit posted on TV that they're all fucking bad. And I'm not saying that they all are, because that's not true. But I'm more careful around people like that. It's pretty fucking obvious why. Like, if I'm in London, it's pretty obvious why. Because I'm not saying that they're all bad, or even half of them are bad. But some of them can be fucking really bad, like a lot worse than the crime that they're used to. Like, it's pretty obvious from the statistics and shit coming out of there. But just talking about stuff like that now can be dangerous. So it is what it is. And again, that's not to say that they're all bad or that I'm racist or shit like that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that I'm racist in that regard. Because that's to say that I've had a lot of fucking friends that are ethnic. I have a lot of friends that in prison that I've given the last of my food to that are ethnic. You know, I've sat in cells with black people. I've sat in fucking communities with black people. I've sat in communities with Muslim people. I've sat in communities. So a lot of the people that say that I'm a certain way haven't actually spent any time with those people. Like, I can sit there with a hand on my heart and fucking feel no racism. You know, just for who they are, I don't think that they're bad. I only judge people by what's in their heart. But that's not to say that I'm not more careful when I'm around big groups of them until I know who the fuck they are, because they don't look like me. So it's natural to be like that, and it's not, in my view, anything that you should be ashamed of to say that. I assume that they're probably the same when they're around me. It's like someone's around you, they don't have tattoos, and then they're around a great group of dudes who have tattoos. They're like, I got to be more careful, like, shit can happen. And then they realize, oh, this guy's just normal. He just got tattoos. You know, that's the way it is. You know, and it shouldn't have to be an apologist person over that stuff, like to have that sort of stuff. I mean, with X and stuff like that, if you're talking about those topics, you can go to prison now. So it's very, like, fake and very dangerous thing to have happen. You know, people going to prison for memes, I think it's completely ridiculous. And then others getting light sentences for major crime. Like, violent crime and things like that, that should be at the top of the list. Like, that should be at the top of the punishment pile. Like, rapes or sexual assaults, that should be at the very fucking top of the pile. Like, you get beaten up or something like that, it haunts you, yes, but I can imagine being raped and shit rides with you forever. Like, it's shit that you can't get away from. Yes, if you get punched in the face and smacked around a bit, maybe you get like a broken nose or something, it can haunt you. Oh fuck, I got fucked up. But fighting it can happen, specifically for a guy. You know, it's shit that can happen. I think you can move past it, but where girls and things like that are getting raped and stuff like that, like gang rape, or getting groomed in these gangs from when they're fucking kids, like that's disgusting. Like, that's where the fucking shit should end. You know, there should be max sentences for things like that. Some guy gets done selling fucking a few grams of drugs and gets fucking handed, and someone rapes multiple people and gets fuck all. Like, to me, that's ridiculous. Because one is not forcing other people to take it. Like, if you're selling coke or selling ecstasy or something like that, I'm not saying you're a good dude, but you're not forcing people to come to you. If you're selling a clean product that no one's getting sick from or anything like that, you're just selling, like, your supply and demand. But if you're running around forcing people into these sex fucking grooming shit, you know, having sex parties with 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, like, that's completely unacceptable. Like, you're dealing with people that are underage, as such. I would say someone who's selling drugs to people that are underage is a monster. As someone who's doing that stuff specifically to underage people is the worst of the worst. You know, if you're a rapist and things like that, you're still, to me, the scum of the earth. All of that sexual crime is the lowest of the low. I would never do that, and I would never associate with anyone like that. And if you associate with people like that in prison, you would be killed, you know, and that would be pretty normal. Once I beat the shit out of a guy in a cell because he was getting processed, and we're all in a holding cell, and I walked in to be processed and told that I wasn't getting bail. And then I saw he had his record, and it was still on the table, but it was through the glass because the lawyer had been flicking open each person's fucking record, but they left his face up so I could see it, and he was done for was not trafficking girls, but it was like inappropriate shit on the computer, and also like creating child exploitation material. See, having child exploitation material is bad. It's still fucked up. Like you're still like you're still contributing to that shit. Like you're viewing it, so you're still a part of the problem. But he was creating the material, so he's the fucking like seed of the issue. Like he's obviously abusing kids. And then as soon as I got back to the cell, I asked who he was. Like there was 6 guys there, or maybe 7, and I asked who the fuck this dude's name was. And then as soon as he stood up, I just started beating the shit out of him, and smashed his head against the wall of the cell. Crack. Because that's unacceptable. I don't care if it's fake. Like it is what it is. You know, that's the way it goes. Like anything against children in prison, like you're fucked, as you should be. And that's to say that maybe there's a fucking small chance that he was innocent, but someone else might see it and think, fuck, I have to be very careful to stay away from that sort of shit. You know, that's the way that it should be. If there's ever a witch hunt, it should be a witch hunt against people who abuse kids. And if innocent people die along the way, that's fucking life. And if I could give my life up to myself so that no kids would have to be, you know, abused or something like that, I would do that, because that's the way that it goes. You know, kids are the most innocent to be protected in the world. Like that's the God saying, where anyone who harms the little ones, may they be the fucking rock be tied around their neck and chucked in the river. That's the way that it should be. You know, that's the way that it should be in all of these, even like the Sharia law, all of this shit. Like it should all be the same. Anyone who's abusing kids, or like, you know, it should be in the churches, it should be everything, it should be handled that way. You know, that's the flaw of a lot of these religions, because they're so scared that the PR will be bad if people find out that they've got members and things like that, or like leadership of some kind that have abused kids, so they cover it up and bury it all, because they're like, fuck, we don't want the bad press, so now we have to protect this person, even though we don't want to, like we don't believe in what they say. A lot of this stuff, like if they have that specific things, like it should just be handled in-house. Like it should be, you've come to the conclusion that someone's abusing kids in your like sector, or like, you know, part of the church, or part of the like brotherhood of and Muslim stuff that they have, and they should just get rid of the person, like just in-house, like finish them off. And it should just be known that way. And then others will think, oh fuck, I have to be careful. Like I have to be careful because fucking they're starting to hang people like in town square over this shit. So I see it now. I have to be careful that there can be like if there was ever a witch hunt, and it was to even, like I said, take a couple of innocents with it to cut that seed out, that cancer out of like people that do abuse kids, then that would be one of the ones that would make the most sense. But instead, the witch hunts are for people posting crap online, like crap on social media and shit like that, like targeting the wrong people, like always. Because I think that if they were to target the younger people, or people who are abusing kids and things like that, there would be a lot of people that are high, like leadership and things like that. Like I think a lot of people are doing that shit, that's why they protect them. See, the odd thing is, I used to see it with prison. So I would be locked up, I would have all of the shittest conditions having been done for commercial drug supply, and then someone who would abuse kids, the sexual predator, would get like, you know, he'd be in isolation, yes, but he would also be like fucking looked after with like kid gloves. He never has to worry about going in the yard and getting his head stomped in. If they pick the protection option and the option of, you know, being protected species, a lot of them can get parole early and shit like that because the jails can't look after them. They can't protect so many people. So then a lot of them can get like light sentences of parole. Like, oh, you can't come in and report to parole. Stephen can, but this fucking child predator can't report to parole because it's too dangerous for him. He can report from home. Make Stephen come in and wait 2 hours though, and fucking drive an hour and wait 2 hours and fuck him around. And, oh, we can do all of this reporting for Stephen, you know, he's only in for selling drugs. This child abuser, yeah, we can't have him reporting as much. He can't be on the ankle monitor, all of this shit. Because people might ask him about his crimes. You know, they protect that sort of shit. and that's fucking disgusting. Like, it should be zero protection if you're a child abuser. Like, there should be none. You go in the unit with normal people and you have fucking your charge on your chest, like carry a fucking sheet in. That's the way it should be in prison. I don't have any alarm about my shit in prison. I pissed on a chick once, my ex, that fucking snitched on me before that. So I don't have any qualms. You know, I have nothing to hide in that regard. So I don't have anything that I'm ashamed of that I've ever done, ever, let alone charges, like criminally. But others who have shit to hide, you know, they should have to carry their charge in. And if you're done for fucking raping a kid, you deal with the fucking consequences. Like, if you want to fucking roll in the dirt, like, you better be ready for the fucking mud. And if you drown in the mud, so be it. Like, that's fucking life. You drown in what you create. And if you're not that fucking man, like, if you're not that tough enough to fucking face 60 angry guys because you're a kid abuser, well then, don't fucking do the crime. All right, lads, we went off topic, but till next time.